Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wish you and your family a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year as well. You'll be sorely missed next Congress. Although we sit across the aisle from each other, I have enjoyed working with you.
Thank you.
House rules state that during the first session of the 117th Congress, each standing committee or each subcommittee thereof shall hold a hearing in which it receives testimony from members, delegates, and resident commissioners on proposed legislation within its jurisdiction. Today, 348 days into the session, Chair Lofgren is just now fulfilling this requirement, but chose to do so without the full committee. This requirement is being fulfilled by our subcommittee on elections. Oversight of federal election is important and a key piece of this committee's jurisdiction. But elections are only a fraction of what members should be able to speak to during a true member hearing day. We should be able to speak that the Capitol, the People's House, is not open for tours. It is not open to the people. We should be able to talk about mask requirements on the House floor. We should be able to talk about metal detectors for members of Congress. But today we're having a hearing on the Friday before Christmas. It's almost like you'd think the Democrats are trying to hide something from their public about the bad policies of their legislation. Kind of like they did in rushing through H.R. 1, the federal government takeover of elections, over 800 pages of a one-size-fits-all mandate to states and localities on every minute detail of how elections should be operated. H.R. 1, as we know, would have gutted voter ID laws. H.R. 1 would have nationalized elections, would have restricted states' abilities to maintain accurate voter rolls, and would have provided a handout to politicians with a 6-to-1 match of small donations funded with taxpayer money. This process is now repeating itself in the Senate, where they're trying to pass a, quote, compromise voting bill right now, just before the end of the year, just before Christmas, when nobody's watching. But really, the bill in debate in the Senate is just a shorter version of H.R. 1 and would mandate that mail-in ballots be accepted if they're received 7 days after the election. It would weaken states' voter ID requirements. It would mandate automatic voter registration. And it would nationalize our election system and centralize the administration in Washington, D.C. Let's just take a couple seconds to reflect on what this Democratic majority has done when it comes to our role overseeing federal elections. Every day, we hear from the other side about how our democracy is under threat. We hear about how critical it is that we pass partisan elections agendas to save our democracy. The reality is, what they have done and continue to do through their rhetoric, their actions, their policies, is a threat to our democracy. Let us not forget that it was the Democrats on this committee that attempted to steal an election in Iowa's 2nd Congressional District, despite the race being certified, and contemplated trying to steal a seat in New York's 22nd Congressional District. The Democratic majority only backed down after facing a backlash from the public once they realized they didn't have the votes to get it done. You want to know how to protect democracy? You can start by not nationalizing elections in order to rig the outcomes in your favor. You can start by not using sensational language that undermines people's faith in elections. And you can start by not trying to steal elections for congressional seats that were duly certified according to the law. I will continue to fight to make it easy to vote and hard to cheat. I appreciate our colleagues who've worked around the outgoing majority's attempt to do anything and everything to make today's hearing as inconvenient as possible in an attempt to stymie members' voices. I remind you, it's about 5 a.m. in Alaska right now, and they want to be held not accountable for the way the House is being run. I do, though, look forward to today's discussion, Mr. Chairman. I think it'll be lively and appreciate you holding today's hearing. I yield back.